You have wiped down every shelf in the refrigerator with warm, soapy water more than once. You have thrown out anything that looked even slightly past its prime, just to be safe. You may have even bought those little deodorizer pods that promise clean, fresh air for weeks. And still, you open the door in the morning, and that stale, sour smell is sitting there, waiting. It drifts out and clings to the butter, the leftovers, and even the ice cubes in the freezer. You have started keeping the milk in the door just to get it away from the worst of the smell. So you add another box of baking soda, close the door, and quietly hope that this time it holds. For a few days it does seem a little better. And then the same smell comes creeping right back. But long before anyone ever sold a single fridge deodorizer in a bright little plastic shell, people kept an icebox smelling clean and fresh for years with almost nothing at all. No gels, no scented pods, no filter cartridges to reorder online every single month. Just a clear understanding of where the smell actually lives and one simple, cheap material. In the next few minutes, I'll show you exactly why your fridge keeps smelling no matter what, why that familiar box of baking soda is barely doing anything, and the forgotten way to stop it. We are going to do this in 2 parts, and the order of them matters far more than you would think. First, we find and remove the real source of the smell that all your cleaning keeps missing. Then, we set the fridge up so that the odor has nothing left to come back to in the first place. Because the second part, the part that almost everyone skips entirely, is the part that decides whether your fridge smells clean for a single week or genuinely stays fresh for years. And here is the good news right up front. The forgotten fix costs a few dollars, not a subscription. Let me start by naming what you are actually smelling, because it is usually not really the food. That sour, stale, slightly musty odor is not coming from the shelves you keep wiping down. It is coming from the places your cloth and your soapy sponge simply never quite reach. Most people assume a smelly fridge just needs another good wipe and a fresh box of soda. So they clean all the surfaces they can actually see, and the smell keeps coming back anyway. The real cause is almost always moisture and food residue trapped somewhere you cannot see it. Every refrigerator constantly makes condensation, and all of that water has to drain somewhere. It runs down a small channel at the back of the fridge and into a hidden little drain hole. From there, it drips down into a shallow pan underneath, near the compressor, so it can evaporate. Tiny bits of food and traces of spilled liquid ride along with that water down into the pan. Down there it is dark, slightly warm from the motor, and damp, which is exactly what bacteria love. Nobody ever opens up that pan, so whatever collects inside it just sits and grows for years. That drip pan and the drain line above it are where a truly stubborn fridge smell usually lives. You can scrub every shelf you own for a solid hour and never once touch the real source of it. Before we go any further, I put together a small book of these forgotten home methods, the cheap, simple fixes that actually last, and it is linked below if you would like it. And that is the only time I will bring it up until the very end, so let us get back to the fridge. Here is the part that most quick-tip cleaning videos leave out of the conversation completely. The smell is not really a sign that your fridge is dirty on top, it is a sign moisture is trapped. And there are a few more hidden spots besides that drain, where the moisture quietly collects. Look closely at the rubber seal that runs all the way around the door, the gasket that holds the cold in. It is folded into dozens of little accordion pleats, and those soft folds catch drips and crumbs. Wipe a damp cloth slowly through them, and you will very often be surprised by what comes out. In a warm, damp fold, that trapped residue grows mold, and mold carries a musty smell all its own. Every time the door swings open and shut, the gasket flexes and breathes that smell into the box. Most people never once think to clean the gasket, so it just quietly keeps feeding the odor. Now go and pull out the crisper drawers at the very bottom, the ones meant for fruit and vegetables. Underneath those drawers is a shallow well, and liquid from your produce tends to pool right there. A forgotten leaf or a small puddle of juice sits down in that well, and slowly begins to turn. It is at the very bottom of the fridge, completely out of sight, and it can smell genuinely awful. Lift the drawers all the way out of their tracks and wipe the wells that they sit down inside. There is one more source of the smell, and this one is about habit far more than hidden dirt. Strong-smelling foods that are left uncovered will happily share their smell with everything nearby. An open dish of onions, a cut half of melon, an unwrapped block of cheese, all breathe into the air. The fridge quietly circulates that shared air around. So soon, the whole box carries the same smell. And porous things like your butter and your ice will absorb that odor and hold tightly onto it. So what is the standard modern response to all of this? It is almost always the very same two things: an open box of baking soda on a shelf and a scented deodorizer pod that you replace every month. And here is the honest truth about that small, familiar cardboard box of baking soda on the shelf. It really does neutralize some odors, but it only works on the thin surface that touches the air. A cardboard box with just one flap torn open has a very small opening for any air to reach. Most of the powder packed down inside that box never actually touches the fridge air at all. So it does a little for the first week, quietly saturates, and then sits there doing almost nothing. That is exactly why the box you opened months ago is not really working, even though it looks fine. Meanwhile, the deodorizer pods and gels are simply adding a pleasant scent on top of the real smell. They cover the odor over for a little while instead of actually removing whatever is causing it. And they are designed from the start to run out, so you order them again and again and again. None of that ever touches the moisture and residue down in the drain, the gasket, or the wells. Adding more scent to a fridge does not fix the cause at all. It only masks it until it fades away. The very thing most people try so hard to cover up is really just a symptom of dampness underneath. This is the point where the forgotten method turns off and goes in a completely different direction. It comes in two old, simple steps. First, clean out the source, then let charcoal keep the air clean. First, the deep clean, and honestly, it is easier and less frequent than the weekly wipe you already do. Unplug the fridge or switch it off at the wall and take out all of the shelves and the drawers. Wash all of them in warm water with a little plain white vinegar. Not a heavy, scented dish soap. Vinegar cuts straight through the greasy film that holds the bacteria, and it rinses away perfectly clean. Wipe down every inside surface with that same vinegar and water, including the ceiling of the box. Now find that drain hole at the back, usually a small opening low down on the rear inside wall. Flush it out gently with a little warm water so the hidden channel behind it runs clear again. Then pull out the drip pan from underneath, near the floor at the back, and give it a real wash. On most fridges, you can reach it from the front or the back, down low, once the bottom grill pops off. That drip pan is the one step almost everyone skips, and it is very often the true source of the smell. Run your cloth carefully through the gasket folds and lift the crispers to clean the wells below them. Then dry every single part before it goes back, because a dry fridge is a fridge that cannot grow smell. Now for the second step, the quiet one that keeps the air clean in between those deep cleanings. Instead of reaching for another box of baking soda, use a small open dish of activated charcoal. Charcoal has been used to keep enclosed spaces smelling clean and fresh for a very long time indeed. Back in the days of the icebox, before electric fridges, food was kept cold with a block of solid ice. That box stayed damp inside all the time, and people kept lumps of charcoal in it to fight the odors. Root cellars, where whole families stored their food underground, were often kept fresh the same simple way. People have leaned on charcoal for freshening both water and air for a very, very long time. Charcoal is not some brand new modern invention dressed up inside a plastic cartridge with a label on it. It is one of the oldest and simplest ways people ever had to pull bad smells right out of the air. Here is exactly why it works so much better than one small cardboard box of ordinary baking soda. Activated charcoal is riddled through and through with countless microscopic pores, all the way inside. A single small spoonful of the stuff holds an absolutely enormous, hidden surface area packed within it. Odor molecules drift down into all of those millions of tiny pores and get held there, out of the air. Baking soda neutralizes a few kinds of odor on its small surface and then very quickly saturates. Charcoal instead traps a far wider range of different smells across a surface area many times larger. Think of the baking soda as a small sponge and the activated charcoal as a sponge many times its size. Set an open dish of it inside the fridge and it quietly keeps cleaning the air, day after day after day. Now, let me be completely honest with you about what this method can and cannot do for your fridge. Charcoal absorbs odor straight out of the air, but it cannot fix a smell you have never cleaned out. If you skip the drain, the pan, and the gasket, then no charcoal on earth is ever going to keep up. So clean the source first, always. The charcoal is only there to maintain the air, not to rescue it. And charcoal does slowly fill up over time, though far, far more slowly than a small box of soda does. Every month or so, set the dish out in the sun for a few hours or in a warm oven to dry it back out. That drives the trapped moisture and old odor back out of the pores, and then it works just like new. One small container of it can honestly last a very long time this way, instead of a monthly reorder. Just use plain activated charcoal, the kind sold for filtering air or water, not scented briquettes. Barbecue briquettes very often contain added binders and lighter fluid, so keep those far from food. Quick question for you while we are all here together on the subject of that stubborn smell. Tell me down in the comments what has been making your fridge smell and what you have already tried. Now let us actually talk about cost, because this is where the simple math really starts to separate. A deodorizer gel or pod runs a few dollars each, and it is designed from the start to be replaced monthly. Across a whole year, that quietly adds up to real money for something that only ever masks the smell. A steady habit of buying baking soda boxes is cheaper, sure, but you are still buying and tossing them. Now go ahead and compare all of that to the quiet, forgotten way of simply handling the problem. A small tub of activated charcoal costs only a few dollars, and it can be recharged again and again. A jug of plain white vinegar for the cleaning is just a few dollars, and it will last you for months. So for well under $10, and with no monthly reorder at all, you remove the smell and keep it gone. One path is a payment you keep on making forever. The other is a few dollars spent one single time. So here is exactly what to do, and how to spread it out so it never becomes one giant, exhausting chore. This weekend, do the full deep clean just once, all the way down to the drip pan and the door gasket. Take about an hour, empty the fridge into a cooler with some ice, and clean every hidden spot with vinegar. Then dry all of it completely before you plug the fridge back in and load all of your food inside again. After that, set your small dish of activated charcoal on a shelf somewhere near the back of the box. From that point on, the ongoing routine really is almost nothing at all, and that is the whole point. Wipe up any spill on the very day it happens, before it can run down into all of those hidden spaces. Keep your strong foods covered up so the onions and the cheese are not breathing into the whole box. Once a month, recharge the charcoal out in the sun or in a warm oven, and then simply set it back inside. Twice a year, do a quick check of the drain, the pan, and the gasket folds while you have a moment. Keep an open box of something absorbent in there always, and let the charcoal do the daily work for you. That truly is the whole system, and none of it is hard to do, and none of it is expensive to keep up. Notice that nearly every single step here is about keeping the fridge dry, not about scrubbing harder. Smell needs moisture and trapped food in order to grow, so a genuinely dry fridge simply cannot make it. The deeper lesson buried in all of this is not really about refrigerators at all when you think about it. It is about removing the actual cause of a problem instead of covering it up with one more product. A deodorizer pod hides the smell only until it runs out, and then you are right back where you started. Cleaning the real source and drying the box means the smell has nothing left to grow back from. Prevent the problem instead of rescuing it. Maintain with a light touch instead of masking and reordering. Remove whatever quietly feeds the smell instead of just spraying something new over the top of it. Do this once, and your kitchen simply smells like nothing much at all, exactly the way a fridge should. Open the door, and there is no sour note and no heavy perfume covering it, only cold, clean, plain air. If this changed how you think about that smell in your fridge, subscribe to The Forgotten Method, where every single week we bring back a practical old method that still works beautifully today. Tell me down in the comments which part of your home has been giving you the most trouble lately, because it just might end up becoming the subject of the very next video on this channel. And the full collection of these forgotten household methods is waiting in the book linked below. That is the very last time I will mention it to you, exactly as I promised near the beginning. Next, on The Forgotten Method, we look at the old way to bring a badly rusted cast iron pan back to life, without scrubbing away the hard-earned seasoning that makes the pan worth keeping in the first place. Sometimes, the method we need most is simply the one that we quietly forgot along the way.